Hello, can everyone hear me? Okay, good, great. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming to see AllSaints today. I'm here to talk to you about our successful AI implementation for customer experience. My name is SJ Grabiec, and I'm the global head of customer experience and fraud and payments across AllSaints and John Varvatos, who is our sister company. So what I'm going to take you guys through today, I'm going to walk you through a bit of an intro to AllSaints, just in case there is anyone in here who doesn't know who AllSaints are. And then I want to walk you through where we started, so kind of the pre-AI world, what challenges we were facing, and then the process that we followed, the results that we've seen, and then also as a result of AI implementation, you know, where our gaze has moved to. So like, what are we focusing on next? But before I do, I just want to let you guys know, if you haven't seen already, we are plastered all over social media, LinkedIn and everywhere else, but it is actually our 30th birthday this week. We were founded in 1994, and 2024 makes us really grown up, guys, and we're 30 years old. We've also launched a new fragrance collection to mark our 30th birthday, and had a massive global brand day on Monday this week with all of our global teams together to go through our focuses ahead. But before I go into the AI world and the pre-AI world, I'm just going to play you a quick video to give you some context of who AllSaints are, and then maybe help you understand some of the challenges that we might have faced. So here goes. Hopefully you guys can hear that. It's a bit rock and roll. Well, I hope that gives you a bit of context there, guys, and we've come such a long way in 30 years. So just a further context, we've got about 2,500 team members globally. We work with over 50 partners around the world. We have over 200 stores globally as well, 6 head offices, a global digital presence, and we look after customers in over 150 countries. So, you know, a pure global operation. But before I get into pre-AI world as well, I thought I'd give you the context of what our business pillars are. And the business pillars are as simple as this. We want to make the coolest clothes. We want to tell everyone that we make the coolest clothes. And then we want to make sure our really cool clothes are easy for our customers to shop and to access. So that leads me nicely onto the pre-AI world. So guys, the pre-AI world was quite a challenging space, okay? We had a slightly smaller CX team than we did the year before. We were 7 days a week, and we were a 365 operation. We had to reduce our hours of service as we came through COVID. We were originally 24/7, and we reduced that to 9 till 12:30 a.m., and that was to look after all our global markets. We're a multi-channel contact center, which means that we handle all channels from social engagement through to live chat, phones and emails as well. NPS scores, and if you can believe it, guys, handwritten letters to our CEO. Now, the other challenge that we had was reliance on non-CX resource. So where the team had been made smaller, we were also relying on our retail team members to support customer experience as well, kind of in a hybrid setting. So they might work 2 days in store and work 3 days for customer experience. And that was a really good, you know, concept. But it also came with challenges, as you can imagine, as well. It's a bit Hunger Games, if you like. So the challenges that we really faced at this point in time were mainly unscalable volumes, and I think that's really not unusual for retailers, particularly heading into busy trading periods. As a result of that, during peak, you know, our first reply time could be like 10 business days, which the customer service girl and me really wanted to cry. We had delayed resolutions as a result of that. Our team were exhausted, so, you know, team fatigue of handling the same contact, the same topic, in volume, working really hard, and then finding a queue that's really not moving, and that number of customers waiting in a queue was not really reducing. We also found recruitment and retention quite difficult, particularly where we were a smaller team, and actually recruiting for winter peak, I do believe, is a very difficult thing for most retailers. You need to bring in a high volume of people for your busiest time, where you have the highest volume of new customers, and they need to be taking the best care of them, which is always a challenge. And again, we weren't 24/7, right? So we sat down and we thought, okay, what are we going to do here? We haven't got a full CX team. We don't have a full deck. What are we going to do? And we turned to AI, because what we really wanted to do, and the strap line I had in my head the entire way through this process was, I have to take the panic out of peak for my team, right? Now, the other thing we wanted to focus on was resolution and not deflection. Now, I know AI is used for deflection as well, but I actually don't think necessarily that's a metric to be proud of. I think you need to focus on both, and I think the resolution for a customer is the most important, so they were away from that interaction with feeling whole and that the issue has been resolved. Now, obviously, that's not going to happen all the time, so the target was, and it was quite an aggressive target, was to automate up to 20% of our customer service contacts by Q4, and just for context, we started this project in September. And then the stretch target for my team was to automate up to 50% by Q2 the following year, okay? So I think we know why. So we want to improve we want to improve the team experience, number one. We wanted faster response times to our customers. We wanted to get into, peak survival, recruit less and automate more. But I also wanted a 24/7 presence for our customers on our website, where we had moved from 24/7 to finishing at about half midnight, 7 days a week. And also I wanted to turn down the volume for my team and try and relieve some of that very boring, let's be honest, repetitive workload for them, okay? The other area we needed to look at is the secondary stage. So this stage was the survival piece, right? This is what we had to do to survive peak, but then AI is more than just surviving and automating. It's also about adding value as well. And so the secondary part of our project was actually, generative AI. How can we leverage and use generative AI to maybe build a basket for a customer, become a revenue center, even like internal team support. So we've got 270 stores globally. If they have a question, rather than asking their manager, they could just go and ask Milo, who's our chatbot, and give them an answer. So it's got internal use cases as well. WhatsApp was another channel that we wanted to look at and how we could leverage AI to do that, because WhatsApp generally does drive additional contact. So we would help AI to help us scale that. And then, like I said, customer service shouldn't just be reactive service, it should be a value add center as well. So how can we become a revenue generating center for our brands too? So the first step in all of this, guys, is okay, I know what I want to do. I know how much I want to automate to survive peak. I know what my team are asking me for. Who do we do this with, right? So I think the AI space, there's a lot of very strong players out there. And for us, Digital Genius, I'm not here to kind of totally fly their flag, but they are an incredible company and they are a great partner for us as well. So part of that process was talking to 3 or 4 providers, but also I would zoom out a little bit and think about, who trusts these guys, right? What results are they seeing? Let's talk about case studies. Let's talk about reference calls and understand what impact they've made in similar businesses. But also, and most importantly for us, for our confidence, was like maturity in the space. So they've actually got a really good track record with e-commerce retailers as well. So this is just an example here for you. Now, there was a few other things that we wanted to consider as part of this process, guys, and one of them was not just the fact that they have got an innovation roadmap, which is really important. So having the product they have now is one thing, but what's coming up next, right? The fact that they're open to new ideas, you want a partner who's going to build out new use cases with you and be flexible in terms of what you want to launch and how you want to launch it. But then the other part of it, which is of equal importance, is making sure the innovation roadmap is matched by a data security roadmap and compliance roadmap as well. And in our case, we were very lucky that Digital Genius are very strong in both areas, right? few other considerations, for AllSaints. What is our current tech stack? How does that integrate into Digital Genius and the dependencies we had as a result of those tech stacks? The team resources, both internally within our technology teams who are supporting us with the release of this, but then also the CX teams as well. And then also really thinking about how you can impact your top drivers and have a high impact pretty quickly. So the process we started with was a process map AI first. So basically that means it wasn't generative AI, okay? So we were very intentional with the top drivers that we wanted to go after to have the highest impact for our teams and customers. So we process mapped our AI in Miro board, so I'll show you that later. We had very much a phased approach. I would definitely not recommend a big bang approach here, guys. You definitely want to do this in a phased way. Focus on your contact drivers, what's going to save your life, right? The planning, the scoping and the steering is an important part of that process, but also advocacy from the business. So you need to make sure that all of your teams internally, technology, digital, info security, the customer experience team are all on board with kind of what we're doing here and why we're doing it and how it can make their life better. Testing and playback, I know it's an obvious thing to say, but I think the devil's in the detail. And then also at this stage, it wasn't Digital Genius's first rodeo, so we really needed to trust them in terms of getting this right and on time. So the areas that we focused on first for highest impact was actually we went chatbot first, which is actually really, really unusual. Normally, you would go email first, but for AllSaints, one of the key challenges, if you'll remember, is that we wanted to have a 24/7 presence, and a chatbot, that's what it gives you. So we wanted to have that available all the time. We then went into the classic Wizmo, Wizmar, so where's my order status, where's my refund, where's my return, which can, I think, for all of us, drive contacts up, particularly during your Q4 periods, right? Order cancellation requests, returns inquiries. Can I return the order I placed online with Klarna to a store? Yes, you can. So it's really quick answers. You do not need a human expert brain to answer that question. Promo codes, and then also price match requests as well. The second part of the phase for us was actually a slightly, I'd say, moderate impact, slightly more complex. So we went chatbot first, we then went email next, okay? So we wanted to automate some emails that were coming in on these particular topics. We focused on Wizmo and Wizmar first, Lost in Transit second. For those retailers in here, I know we feel each other's pain with Lost in Transit, I'm sure. Stock inquiries, do you have this in a size 10 at Regent Street? I can't find it online. Is it available in your network? So that's a really nice automation that we can support with. Product advice, including faulty, and then return label creation as well. So let's meet the bots. So we did this in a 3-stage approach, as I said. We launched Milo. Milo is one of our best-selling men's leather jackets, so it had to be Milo. We actually have named all of our AI chatbots. So Milo first in September 2023, and then we launched email in October 2023, so a month later. And then we've only really just recently launched generative AI. We wanted to make sure we had a pretty good handle on the process mapped AI first before we went into the generative AI space. So here's just a quick example of what Milo looks like on our website and on our mobile website as well. And I think what I want to tell you is for process-driven AI, it really is the process map that's under the hood, okay? So Miro plus Digital Genius AI magic equals our Milo chatbot, essentially. So this is a really short video, and sorry if it's not really clear on the screen, but I just wanted to show you the extent of just one flow. Now, this shouldn't kind of frighten anyone, because actually Wizmo's quite a complicated flow, but it just gives you an idea of, what the scenario is, what the status is, then okay, yes, no, what message do you want to show to the customer? So what I mean is that process mapped AI is actually very intentional, and it's a lot more controlled than sort of generative AI as well. Here's a little bit of a closer shot there, so you can kind of see an orders in process. The green little box there is kind of a text template, so that's the message that you would show to the customer. But then what are we doing with it? How can we automate the categorization of that ticket, of that case? and how do you sort of have a status action as well. So all of that is very, very intentional. Here as well is an example of Milo in action. So this is where we've married generative AI with process mapped AI, and with Digital Genius they showed us that you could actually do both, which was very powerful. So this is just an example of someone not knowing where their order is and going through kind of a process. FYI, that's my personal data up there, so please don't stalk me. So we had to go through verification steps to appease, obviously, info security, but also to make sure our customers were happy as well. And then in most of these cases, guys, we have the highest percentage of resolution rate. So this is where the AI can actually solve the entire case, and it doesn't even need to go to one of my team, okay? Anyway, that's enough of that. I will let that go. I'm sure you can go on allsaints.com and give it a go. But what I want to talk to you now about is the results. So in Q4 2023, nearly 45,000 of our customers went through AI with a very high resolution rate and a good deflection rate as well. So usually for us as retailers, what I call a January hangover. So once you've got through Black Friday, once you've got through Christmas, you have about a month and a half, probably till about mid-February, of just post-purchase hangover. And the good news is, because we were on top of our contacts and response times, it actually just didn't happen at all. So our post-purchase hangover ended about the second week of January, which was, for our team, was like life-changing. That was a month earlier. Now, top line, what happened? Obviously, volumes were absolutely manageable. We dropped our first reply time during peak by 50%. So we went from an average of 9 to 10 days to an average of about 4 days of going back to a customer and managing the volumes. About 40% was handled by AI. As I said, it kind of went through that flow, which gave customers quicker outcomes, 24/7. My team were happier. We dropped the amount of peak headcount we needed. As I said earlier, winter recruitment can be quite challenging, but we actually didn't need as many people because the AI was doing some of the heavy lifting for us. We had that visible 24/7 service, and I'm really pleased to say we are actually now no longer 365, and we're now a 362 operation. So then we went into generative AI. So we did generative AI later. We launched that in June, and what we've seen so far are quite incredible. So I already thought, how can you make those results any better? And generative AI proved me wrong, guys. So we saw a 20% lift in deflection. We saw a 26% lift in our CSAT. We saw 15% less chats being abandoned by customers. And we saw 17% less cases being handed over to one of our team because the generative AI was helping to manage that contact and resolve that contact. So it's been a really successful launch for us. But what I am going to take you through are quickly some reflections, because you always look back and you're like, okay, if I was to do this again, what would I do differently? And actually, Maria's not here, but she's actually our global CX manager for AllSaints and John Varvatos. And she really, once we did all the building, actually delivered this project herself. And what she said to me was this, that AI should be your best agent, and you need to approach AI as if you would a human, because they need the same input. You need to give them training, you need to give them guidance, you need to give them guardrails, and you need to give it regular feedback in terms of what's working and what is not, okay? So AI, as you can probably tell from the numbers, saved AllSaints' skin in Q4 2023, right? There was no way we were going to get through peak unscathed if we hadn't gone live with AI. We went chatbot first, and we agree that that was the right approach for us. It might not be the right approach for other businesses, but it was for us. You have to put the time in to map this out, and I'll tell you why. You might think, oh my God, that's so much process mapping, that's a lot of work. But I'm telling you, it made us more efficient in the long run, not just because of the AI, but because we actually addressed process inefficiencies at the same time. So we were like, hang on, we're mapping this out. that doesn't look right. Let's change that and make it better. And then also the phased releases, I would still continue to do that the same way, but also that the devil's in the detail and the testing as well. Don't just launch something if you're not sure. I'd say with AI, you need to be pretty sure, not too risk averse, because some of it is you've got to sometimes you've got to shove something off the nest to see if it flies, but at the same, you've got to balance that with kind of the testing and the playback. So doing differently, I mean, guys, I wish we'd started earlier, that's for sure. We didn't give ourselves really enough time to do what we needed to do in that short space of time, but the results were still incredible. But if I were to do it again, I probably would have started about 2 months earlier. I would have launched generative AI earlier if I was to do this again, because the impact was so incredible. So I think if we were to do this again, maybe with John Varvatos, who's our sister company, I'd probably launch generative AI much, much sooner. The other thing I would say is when you're in survival mode, you don't always think what it's going to look like on the other side. So you want like a peak plan, like what does AI look like in peak? And then what does AI look like in non-peak? So, non-peak's really, really important as well. So that's where you can reduce the automation, still provide amazing service, and then look at adding value. And then also focus on email automation earlier than we did, I'd say would be a win. So just on the AI topic, there's loads and loads of resources out there. I always find Superhuman newsletter. I don't know if anyone in here already is signed up to that, but that's a really, really good overview of keeping you up to date on kind of almost everything that's going on in the AI world, whether or not it's in your industry, but it's really, really interesting. And there's also some free AI courses that you can do out there if you really want to, nerd out. So, what now? And I think what I want to say is AI enabled us to move our gaze. AI took the weight out of, and the repetition out of being a reactive CX center to actually being able to be like, okay, so now what, right? So firstly, CX is changing massively, I think. Where AI is coming in and a lot of that heavy lifting is supporting CX operations, it means that actually our agents and our CX teams need to have the highest level of emotional intelligence, because actually they need to be what the AI cannot be, So the AI does the chat automation, it does the email automation, not all of it, but actually how do you provide really good human service? And I think the focus on service should be human now as well. And I think they can co-pilot really, really seamlessly. CX are the unsung heroes of marketing. If someone's got shit CX, they've probably got shit sales too, and they don't have loyal customers. But if you've got a good CX operation with people who care about their customers and provide human service, that is marketing right there. So revenue center, and like I said, I say to my guys, you're not just an agent, you're a professional communicator, that's what you do. You are a professional problem solver, that's what you do, okay? And then also how you handle these issues as a human really defines your brand. They always say how a brand handles something when it doesn't go right is the definition of the brand, right? So what are we focusing on? Obviously peak readiness. This started in May. But right people, right place, right processes, right systems, right technology, disaster planning, team well-being, making sure the team are on board, and then really looking through your entire website, help centers, CX sort of operations with a customer focus lens. You've got to take your head off and look at it as a customer. The other thing we're focused on and we've actually delivered is actually combining our John Varvatos service team with our customer service team at AllSaints to actually enhance the service proposition, and that's going really, really well. The other thing we've done, we've actually launched already, is generative AI, but not just in conversational AI. How else can you use generative AI to provide an amazing customer experience? And the truth is, for retailers particularly, an AI size and fit guide or size and fit tool on a product description page is really powerful, as long as you've got the information that you can feed it underneath it, right? International focus, I can see our international partners sat right here, but improved service propositions. And we've also, guys, just opened a new distribution center in the Netherlands for our European customers, and we want to improve that proposition for them too. Loyalty, the L word. So I think we're looking into what this could look like for AllSaints, and I think it's still something. I always say it's a bit like having a blank wall, knowing that you want to put a picture up, but you don't know what kind of picture you want, so you leave it blank. But we're at a point now where we're looking at what that could look like for AllSaints and potentially John Varvatos as well. The other thing, this year we saw a 40% drop last year, this year 50% drop in peak agents, which has really helped save some costs, but also we're hiring really high quality, high emotional intelligent agents to join our team. And the final thing, so I know I'm going to get rushed in a minute, is the focus on post-purchase. So now we've launched AI, we've reduced the noise, we haven't removed any more headcount from our team. If anything, guys, I might need more, because we want to add value. The focus now is our post-purchase experience, mapping out what that looks like, identifying opportunities. There's a quote here from Zach Hamilton, who is the SVP of Parcel Lab. He's a bit of a disruptive voice, I think, in CX and post-purchase, but I really, really like him. And he says this. He says, post-purchase experience isn't an afterthought, it's a revenue generator, and if you don't treat it that way, your competition will. So basically, it can ruin your CX experience or this work you do. The truth is, none of these things cut it anymore. If you've got a static, orders on its way, you rely on, your carrier to update your customer, and you don't personalize that experience, you're leaving money and you're leaving loyalty on the table, and it's just not good enough for our customers anymore. They have much higher expectations, and I would highly advise, mapping out your post-purchase experience, speaking to experts, and gaining buy-in from your execs by speaking their language. But guys, that is what AI has enabled us to look at. I want to say thank you, so I've got to go over to a panel discussion now. But thank you so much for listening, and I hope you found it helpful.